Recording.
All right. Numbers. I won't say. Dang.
I think it's working.
Dude, we're on numbers 10 or 11 already?
Yeah, it is 11 now, I'm pretty sure.
Wow.
Yeah, man. And we're only doing one at a time, really. We were bulking it, but as soon as we started Hebrews, we're still only doing them once at a time now.
Yeah.
11 does look a little long, semi-long. Not like painful.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we should probably start driving through it because it's already like 8:30.
Yeah, I know. Didn't get much sleep last night. It took me a while to get going.
Sorry, man.
No, you're fine.
Cool. Well, I got it in front of me here, so I can kick it off.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm ready.
All right. And all right. Let me jump back really quick and just see like what the final note was. Just so I remember. Holy shit! My internet has been fucking ridiculous this morning too, man.
Oh god.
All right.
So, it's like the most annoying thing in this day and age to happen.
I know all right, yeah, so the very end they're just talking about how like they would move and they would have the ark out in front of them, and it was like they were following the ark and kind of like holding it on their shoulder. I think that's also symbolic too, like how do they carry it? Like they hold it on their shoulders, like just like people would carry around the king,
yeah,
on
they
a
treated
throne
it like that for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And when it rested, he said, "Return, O Yehovah, to the many thousands of Israel." So that was the last verse. All right.
Okay.
So 11. All right. So when the people complained, it displeased Jehovah, and Jehovah heard it, and his anger was kindled, and the fire of the Lord burnt among them. Wow, and consumed them that were in the King James is where it says uttermost parts of the camp.
It's like the opposite for me. It's like when Adonai heard it, his anger flared up, so that fire from Adonai broke out against them and consumed the outskirts of the camp.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay.
See, but you said on the King James it says innermost.
No, it says uttermost. So outskirts makes sense.
Oh, okay. I just misheard you then. Okay, so yeah, about the same idea.
Yeah.
Interesting. The outskirts of the camp.
Yeah, I mean, interesting that fire is just like raining down from heaven.
Yeah.
I imagine like Sodom and Gomorrah style.
Yeah.
Just like
I know.
Damn. And the people cried to Moshe, and when Moshe prayed unto Yehovah, the fire was quenched. And he called the name of the place Tavera, burning, which means burning, because the fire of Yehovah burnt among them. And the mixed multitude, interesting term, that was among them fell lusted, and the children of Israel also wept again, and they said, "Who shall give us meat to eat?" We remember the fish which we ate in Egypt freely, and the cucumbers and the melons and the leeks and the onions and the garlic. But now our soul is wasted away. There is nothing at all besides this manna before our eyes. Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy. For instance, in place of lusted, for me it says the mixed crowd that was with them grew greedy for an easier life. And I wonder if by mixed crowd it means like not necessarily the Hebrews, but just everybody who was people who had attached themselves to the camp and etc.
I think that's exactly what it is. Yep.
Yeah.
I was looking at kind of the Hebrew behind it, but this definitely shows up other places. This is like an official kind of like term for this, there's a bunch of Hebrews, a bunch of others.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
So they're tired of the manna.
Yeah.
What they ate in Egypt, even in slavery.
I know, right? Yeah, I mean, mana every meal of the day. I mean, yeah, I can't imagine. But
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I
um,
mean, yeah, it's been years at this point.
yeah, absolutely. And verse 7, and the mana was coriander seed, and the color thereof is the color of bdellium, is what King James says.
Uh-huh.
Not sure what.
White, like, for me, it's yeah, coriander seed and white like gum resin.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, it
Mm.
says color of amber. That kind of makes sense.
Hmm.
And cool. And the people went about and gathered it, and ground it in mills, or ground it in a mortar and baked it in pans and made cakes of it. And the taste of it was as the taste of fresh oil. It's not bad. And when the dew fell upon the camp in the night, the manna fell upon it. So it was like clockwork. It seems like
Yeah,
every
man.
every night they would wake up and it was there.
Yeah, do you have any theories behind what this could have been? Or was this just like a complete anomaly in
Yeah.
nature that God just, just a miracle that
Yeah, well, yeah, it could be a miracle, could be some kind of like unknown substance that like never appears again. But I mean, in verse 7 here it says, "And the manna was," it says as, I don't know if that's actually there in the Hebrew, like that's, that simile term, but it says
Mhm.
as coriander seed, which
Yeah.
is, a thing. But the translation, it looks like it's just kind of like it just kind of put coriander in there because like as a comparison because
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
the
the same
Hebrew
for me.
term seems indistinct.
Yeah, it definitely seems like just comparing it, not saying that it was
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
coriander seed, and white
Yeah.
like gum resin. Yeah, so I mean, um, and pound it. Okay, grind it up in mills or pound it to paste. Then they would cook it in pots and make it into loaves that tasted like cakes baked with olive oil. The dew settled on. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I
so
mean,
I
it must have contained a significant amount of nutrients or minerals to
mm-hmm.
sustain the people to where they didn't, weren't malnutrition.
Yeah, true.
But so I mean, it must have been a pretty well-rounded um,
Mm-hmm.
food. Um,
Yeah, yeah, probably so. And
but
at
low
least
on
they were.
protein for sure.
Yeah,
Probably
yeah.
pretty low on protein, so they're like everyone's getting smaller and stuff.
Well, if they're seeds, I mean, they're probably they could,
Yeah,
depending
that's
on the
true.
kind of seed, they could actually
Yeah,
have a lot of
oh,
protein.
yeah, that's true. It may not necessarily be like that.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess they're able to like make flour out of it and treat it like wheat flour and make
Yeah,
bread out of it and stuff.
yeah.
All right.
They're tired of it at this point.
Yeah, no doubt they're tired of it. And 10, and Moshe heard the people weep throughout their families, every man in the door of his tent, and the anger of Jehovah was kindled greatly. Moshe was also displeased. it's like it's like everyone's pissed like at the same time. Like
Yeah.
everyone's like outside of their
Literally,
tents, like
all parties are
Moses.
mad. All
Yeah,
parties.
just simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's millions of
And
people. Like, imagine the pressure on Moses, like everyone's looking at
yeah,
him.
yeah, yeah, and it's easy for word to spread from just a tiny seed in that camp too. Like I can only
Hmm.
imagine like trends and stuff. I mean, with this big of a civilization now, it's like subject to just all the whims of civilization. So that goes for like rumors,
Hmm.
and trends, and you know um just a couple people out of that group could create a wave of like of just displeasure with the mana or anything else that wouldn't necessarily have come up otherwise. So
Yeah,
it's just like the odds are increased for disputes and stuff.
yeah, no doubt. I mean, like it seems like it only takes a matter of minutes where they're praising Moses and then getting ready to stone him.
I know.
And it seems like in the story, it usually is like one or two rabble rousers that like get everyone going.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. What you got in verse 11?
Yeah. Moses asked Adonai, "Why are you treating your servant so badly? Why haven't I found favor in your sight so that you put the burden of this entire people on me? Did I conceive this people? Was I their father so that you tell me carry them in your arms like a nurse carrying a baby to the land you swore to their ancestors? Where am I going to get meat to give this entire people? Because they keep bothering me with their crying and saying, 'Give us meat to eat.' I can't carry this entire people by myself alone. It's too much for me. If you're going to treat me this way, then just kill me outright. Please, if you have any mercy towards me, don't let me going on being this miserable."
Wow.
Yeah,
man.
so Moses is sick of this shit in his own way. He probably doesn't mind the manna, but he's like sick of the burden of the people.
Yeah. Like
Um,
everything that these guys are going through, Moses is having to go through and
Right.
more.
Yeah.
And just constantly complaining in his ear.
Mhm,
I can't
mhm.
help but think about the comparison in the New Testament where multiple times, Yeshua is kind of in the place of Moses and he's there with like a big multitude and they're getting hungry. Like there was an instance with 5,000 and then there was a 4,000 incident, I think. And each time Moses kind of sounds like Andrew or someone else, if I remember correctly. They were just like, where are we going to go to get enough food? Like, where should I go to get enough food for this crowd? It's just like, it's kind of like the
Yeah.
same thing each time. Like, there's going to be a supernatural thing here.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to worry about all the tangible aspects.
Yeah, how to like sustain your life from the mortal side of things.
Yep.
Yeah, so tell the people. So Adonai replies, Adonai replies, "Bring me 70 of the leaders of Israel, people you recognize as leaders of the people and officers of theirs. Bring them to the tent of meeting, and and have them stand there with you. I will come down and speak with you there, and I will take some of the spirit which rests on you and put it on them." Wow. Then I will carry the burden. Then they will carry the burden of the people along with you, so that you won't carry it yourself alone. All right, so it's going to be a little delegation now, at least.
Yeah,
This is
dude.
getting what
Okay.
he asked for.
Yeah, I need to read this again. Gather 70 men of the elders of Israel, with whom you
Understand
know
why
to
coffee
be.
cools down in 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, have you ever seen one of those things that like you keep your coffee mug on and it keeps it warm?
No, bro.
Dude,
No.
that's a
That
thing.
sounds awesome.
That's a thing. I think it's like something you could just. That's probably something you could just like ask as a Christmas present. Honestly, like.
Yeah, true, bro. I get like that, and then I also get the mug that like stirs itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like,
Oh my god.
completely self-sustaining.
Yeah, dude. There's little things that are literally $10 on Amazon. That you just like keep your mug like sitting on this like little hot plate ring, and it
Hell
keeps
yeah.
it. I've used one
Man.
before actually. It's really effective.
Oh, sweet. And it works. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have to check that out. Yeah, Amazon would definitely have some type of thing like that.
Yeah, definitely. You do. You just ask your mom for that or something.
Yeah, true.
Oh, all right. Oh yeah, dude. Okay, so this is freaking crazy. Whom you know to be elders, bring them to the tabernacle of the congregation, that they may stand there with thee. I will come down and talk with you there, and I will take of the spirit which is upon you, and will put it upon them, and they shall
Yeah.
bear the burden of the people with you, that you bear it not yourself. So we have this correlation, like the one who God has commissioned is the one who God has given the most of his spirit to. So to empower them to cope with all of these responsibilities. So it's
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah. So He's distributing some of the spirit so other people will, I guess, just have the ability to take some of these responsibilities.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I guess it maybe could be compared to when the apostles of Yeshua got gifted the Holy Spirit.
Totally, dude. Totally.
And they were like all speaking in tongues and stuff, but I guess we'll see what that looks like when it describes it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that was probably also another responsibility of Moses. Moses probably, no doubt, with his upbringing, spoke both Egyptian and Hebrew, and with this mixed multitude, there's probably some Egyptians who don't know Hebrew. There's probably some Hebrews who don't know Egyptian, and there's probably some cultural rifts, even though they're all here together. But I don't know. I can't even imagine all the problems that the fires that Moses is probably putting out, like day in and day
absolutely.
out.
Yeah, the cultural thing isn't to be glazed over. I'm sure there's some clashing, especially with where they came from just now. The social structure they just walked out of really had them at odds against each other, it seems like. So
yeah, no
or
doubt.
at least greatly distinguished from each other, so I'm sure that's not just shrugged off too easily.
Totally.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, let's kind of power through this. So 18.
Yeah, definitely.
And say to the people, sanctify yourselves for tomorrow, and you shall eat flesh, for you have wept in the ears of Yehovah, saying, who shall give us flesh to eat? For it was well with us in Egypt. Therefore Yehovah will give you meat, and you will eat. And you shall not eat 1 day, nor 2 days, nor 5 days, neither 10 days, nor 20 days, but a whole month. Until, dude, the King James, which I guess that's like the Hebrew phrase it's using, until it comes out of your nostrils.
Yeah.
And it is.
That's what it says here. And you hate it, because you have rejected Adonai, who is here with you, and distressed him with your crying and asking, why did we ever leave Egypt? Yeah, so, But Moses said, here I am with 600,000 men on foot. Okay, men, by the way. And yet you say, I will give them meat to eat for a whole month. If whole flocks and herds were slaughtered for them, would it be enough? If all the fish in the sea were collected for them, would even that be enough?
Yeah, Moses is still in, like, Andrew's mindset back in the New Testament. I mean, like, come on, dude. Like, first of all, you already have an example. We have manna. Like, are you providing us manna, Moses? Like, that's the precedent so far.
Yeah.
He's, like, so worried here.
Yeah.
Shall the flocks. But, yeah, I mean, this is like, oh, okay, you want this? Like, I'm going to give you, more than you asked for.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, it almost seems, like it's spiteful from this point, but it's an example of something that that's like used in a positive way in the future as well. Like whatever you ask for, you kind of get given tenfold when your heart's ready for it.
True.
If it's a desire of your heart, that is. So.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, it's just kind of like him doing this for them, but. Yeah.
So yeah, the response in 23 kind of says it all. And Yehovah said to Moshe, "Is Yehovah's hand too short? Shall you shall see now whether my word will come to pass or not." And Moses went out and told the people the words of Yehovah, and gathered the 70 men of the elders of the people, and set them around the tabernacle. And Yehovah came down in a cloud. You're just standing there, and like, which I guess this is kind of a regular occurrence, but you're standing there, and like this, like obviously like supernatural cloud just like floats down.
Yeah.
Came down and spoke to him, took up the spirit that was upon him, gave it to the 70 elders, and it came to pass when the spirit rested upon them, that they prophesied and did not cease. Dude, this is just like you said. It's exactly what happened with the apostles, and it's what happened other times throughout the Old Testament. David, even King Saul, where God would put the Spirit on them and they would just immediately begin prophesying,
Yeah.
just like ceaselessly. Really cool. But like, what does that even look like? Like prophesying, that means like speaking the words of God that God's giving you in that moment is kind of like my understanding of it.
Yeah, that definitely, that would be an acceptable definition to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like things they don't even understand, but
Right, yeah.
necessarily.
May not, yeah.
So yeah, definitely that's crazy and very comparable.
Mm-hmm.
And it says they only happened then, but not afterwards,
Interesting.
which is also interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So 26.
I can take it from 26 if you want.
Mm-hmm.
There were two men who stayed in the camp, one named Eldad and the other Medad, and the Spirit came to rest on them. They were among those listed to go out to the tent, but they hadn't done so, and they prophesied in the camp. Wow. A young man ran and told Moses, Eldad and Medad are prophesying in the camp. So, I mean, they know what that looks like, apparently. They're just like, oh, that's prophesying. Let's go tell Moses.
Yeah. Like, he's either, like, kind of crazy or prophesying.
Yeah, right. And Joshua, the son of Nun, who from his youth up had been Moses' assistant, answered, My lord Moses stopped them. But Moses replied, Are you so zealous to protect me? I wish all of Adonai's people were prophets. I wish Adonai would put his spirit on all of them. That's wow.
Joshua thought this was like a zombie outbreak or something. No,
yeah, dude.
No. Well, I guess Joshua is just like, they're faking and this is blasphemy. Maybe. Might be it. This is like the first time Joshua is mentioned in the book of Numbers.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
He's definitely a prevalent figure, though.
He's huge. Yeah.
Very prevalent figure.
He's like Moses 2.0 later.
Yeah, exactly. That's crazy. And he's been an assistant from his youth up, apparently.
Yeah,
so
he's still a Padawan.
Yeah, youngling.
And Moshe said unto him, do you envy them for my sake? So, Joshua's like worried about Moses's, place in all this. These guys are prophesying. He's like, no, that's Moses' job. Would to God that all of Yehovah's people were prophets, and that Yehovah would put his spirit upon them. And Moses, gathered him to the camp, he and the elders of Israel. And there went forth a wind from Yehovah and brought quails from the sea and let them fall by the camp. And it was a day's journey on this side, and it was a day's journey on the other side round about the camp. And as it were 2 cubits high from the face of the earth, dude. God. This is like miles in diameter. And 2 cubits. A cubit, isn't that like 18 inches? So we're talking 3 feet, miles in radius of quail or so. Oh my god, quail. Dude.
Well, this species definitely went extinct.
Yeah. Wow. There's also a lot of theories, and I've even read a few things today that even to this day, sometimes during the year in this area, like between Egypt and Midian, there are like these trade winds that can come out of nowhere and will actually blow like entire flocks of birds out of the air and like push them down into other areas, sometimes with such turbulence that the birds can die and they just fall to the ground.
Dang.
So it's like maybe there's some there's like a real science going on here.
Yeah, probably so in this case. Some huge sudden climate shift that caused these birds like patterns to be just like drastically altered enough to like kill them or like smack them into the mountain or something where they that's jeez.
It's pretty
and funny. That much, dude, like, oh my god, this must have been like one of these massive flock birds.
Yeah.
So like shit, I mean for that much, that's millions of birds.
Jeez, yeah, millions. It'd be interesting to know like what time of year this is, and then compare that to when birds might be migrating in large numbers or something.
Yeah, yeah,
But
exactly, exactly.
yeah, that's probably what's going on. There's probably like a
Yeah.
real he's using like science to bring
Yeah, some
about these things.
pre-existing like nature event.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Let's see.
Yeah, the people stayed up all 32. They stayed up all that day, all night, and the next day gathering the quails. The person gathering the least collected 10 heaps. Then they spread them out for themselves all around the camp. But while the meat was still in their mouth, before they chewed it up, the anger of Adonai flared up against the people, and Adonai struck the people with a terrible plague. Oh man. Therefore that place was named Graves of Greed, because there they buried the people who were so greedy.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder. I
Yeah.
mean, what?
Yeah, because it's like, I'm going to give you it, and maybe they were like a little too eager for God's liking or something. I mean,
Yeah.
he knows like everyone's heart, like, so deeply, that,
Yeah.
I mean, we
'Cause it
have
doesn't-
to,
Right.
go ahead.
I was just gonna say it doesn't seem like. I mean, everybody had some of the quail, so it was like obviously everyone didn't die.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he must have kind of assessed. I mean, if it was based on greed, he must have kind of assessed the desires of their heart, like you were saying.
Yeah.
During this, and I've got to wonder if something about the bird itself had was able to give off like
Potentially.
I mean they all of a sudden their diet changed and a plague happens.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I wonder if these may even be the people who kind of started all this.
Yeah,
you
right.
know, they were kind of like the leaders of this movement, and so they're going to make sure that they're the first ones to really visibly go ham with these birds, and it's just like it was probably just a little too much,
yeah, right. I wonder how that. I wonder, yeah, Graves of Greed. So yeah, it must have, something like that for sure. Just another example of like being safe and being safe with a pure heart, regardless of what your physical actions are.
Right.
If you have a pure heart and pure intentions, then you are spared and you're protected more so than a greedy heart, even though you guys are doing the same action. So yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see like what people who have been receiving the Spirit like throughout the camp are doing during this time.
Yeah, for sure.
As opposed, there's probably a stark contrast.
Definitely.
But cool, dude. I think we have enough time to jump into Hebrews if you want.
All right, sure. Looks like, are we in 5?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh my
right.
God. Yeah. This is really short. So
Yeah,
this
really
is good.
short. We can do this easily.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let me hop back in 4 real quick. The promise of his rest. Yeah, so basically the last thing covered in 4 was about how Yeshua is a compassionate and he's a fitting high priest because he was also a man. He is also a man.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. We do not have a high priest who cannot sympathize with our weaknesses, but in all points tempted as we are, yet without sin. Yeah. So chapter 5. For every high priest taken from among men is appointed for men in things pertaining to God, that he may offer both gifts and sacrifices for sins. Okay, so every high priest is a representative chosen by men to present gifts and sacrifices for sins before God. Okay. He can have compassion on those who are ignorant and going astray, since he himself is also subject to weakness.
Yeah.
Because of this, he is required, as for the people, so also for himself, to offer sacrifices for sins. And no man takes this honor to himself, but he who is called by God, just as Aaron was. Okay. So, even from the beginning, he's like laying down, precedent for high priest being handpicked by God, because it's like, who's Yeshua? He's not even a Levite. He's from the tribe of Judah, all this stuff. And Paul is like, I think he goes into more of that here, but every high priest is handpicked by God ultimately. He's saying. So, verse 5, so also Messiah did not glorify himself to become high priest, so he didn't. It's not like he said, like, well, I'm going to be high priest, but it was he who said to him, you are my son, today I have begotten you.
Mm-hmm.
And as he also says in another place, you are a priest forever according to the order of Melchizedek.
Yeah.
So that's pretty huge. Like, what comes to mind with Melchizedek?
Well, I'm definitely unsure really what the source of that was. But it says, for me it says, you are a priest forever to be compared with Melchizedek. Was that a person? Or
I think it was a person, but it's also it seems really. Have you come across that? It's in Well, I'm sure you have. It's in Genesis 12, I want to say.
Really?
Or maybe another chapter, but the time. Oh, never mind. It's 14. So here, I got it right in front of me. Let me just.
Okay, cool.
Read it real quick. So it's Genesis 14. This is after Lot gets kidnapped, and some of the other people at the plains where Lot moved, they get kidnapped. Abraham takes like 300 of his servants. He goes and fights them all, and then he gets them back, and he's on his way back home basically from that like war, and this king from a city which would become Jerusalem later, but right here it's just called Salem, without the Jerusalem.
Okay,
it's interesting, but like I've looked it up going back. This is what Jerusalem used to be called. So in 18, then Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was the priest of God Most High. Who is this guy? Like, Abraham is the line of Hebrews, right? Yet here we have this other guy who's arguably older than Abraham, already in Canaan because Jerusalem was already there, and it says that he's a priest of God Most High, and he blessed him and said, "Blessed be Abram of God Most High, possessor of heaven and earth, and blessed be God Most High, who has delivered your enemies into your hand."
So definitely one of God's servants here. Wow.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, I'm wondering. I have doubts that this is even like a person. I think this might even just be Yeshua, because first of all, let's look at Melchizedek. What does Melchizedek mean? So it's Melchizedek, or Melchizedek, which means king. It's a compound word of king, Melech or Melche, and Zedek, which means righteous or righteousness. So we have righteous king, king of righteousness. That's what the name means. Then later in the Psalms, this is referenced. Let me see if I can find that. In the Psalms, there's prophecies through David that the Messiah would not be a priest through Levite, the line of the Levites, but would be a priest through this other line called the line of Melchizedek. And it's like, what is this? Okay, so what Paul is quoting is from Psalm 110. The Lord has sworn and will not change his mind. You are a priest forever according to the order of Melchizedek. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's in the Psalms. That's like a real prophecy of the Messiah, that he would be a priest in the order of Melchizedek. So
the order of righteous king.
Yeah, like he would. So he's a priest on the merit of, not because he's a Levite, not because he's in the line of Aaron, but because he's the righteous king.
Yeah,
like that is his.
Okay,
Yeah,
that makes a little bit more sense.
There's so much more there.
Yeah, the Mormon Church observed that, and of course, I probably just wasn't paying enough attention to remember, whatever it was, whatever they described it as and sourced from or whatever. But But it's actually a really big term in LDS Church.
Hmm.
Like you, like all the young men, all the young men start with the Aaronic priesthood, referencing Moses as, Aaron from Moses. And then like after a few years of the Aaronic priesthood, you graduate, so to speak, into the Melchizedek priesthood at like age 17 or something like that, maybe 16.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that shows the same progression, and distinguishment that you outlined.
Mm-hmm.
So that's crazy. But they held that as significant as well, which is interesting as well.
Yeah, no doubt that I actually remember that because I remember you talking about the Aaronic and then the Melchizedek priesthood and stuff.
Yeah.
But no doubt. So back in Genesis, Melchizedek is definitely a Messiah figure, if not Messiah himself. The Psalm, I think there's another Psalm, like not really finding it here, that also makes reference to this prophecy that Messiah would be a priest within the order of Melchizedek, this like other order that, doesn't even show up until, the Psalms, and it's referencing this, Genesis concept, like, what's going on here. But Melchizedek, with its meaning, it's actually what the star conjunctions for, the sign that heralded his birth meant too, because we had Jupiter, which to the Hebrews was Melech, king, and then, righteousness, righteous, and then Regulus, the star that it conjoined with, in the heart of the lion of Leo, is Regulus, which means king. And so together, literally, it was Melchizedek was basically like the conjunction meaning righteous king.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely.
So I guess we're gonna read a lot more about this. Paul talking about it, but let's see. So back in chapter 5, what do you have in verse 7?
During Yeshua's life on earth, he offered up prayers and petitions, crying aloud and shedding tears to the one who had the power to deliver him from death, and he was heard because of his godliness. Even though he was the Son, he learned obedience through his sufferings, and after he had been brought to the goal, he became the source of eternal deliverance to all who obey him, since he had been proclaimed by God as a high priest to be compared with Melchizedek. Wow. So it seems like he still had to kind of earn his way up to how do you say it? He kind of had to earn his right, in God's eyes still, in order to be heard and helped throughout life, I guess. It seems like.
Totally. No doubt. Like, God would have had to, abort that mission if Yeshua was not being faithful and, wasn't sinless like he was and wasn't constantly in the Spirit like he was, I assume.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
We have so in 11, we have much to say about this subject, but it is hard to explain because you have become sluggish in understanding.
Well, yeah.
It's also 9 a.m. Chill out, Paul.
Also separated by 2,000 years of Catholic indoctrination, so I'm trying to claw my way back.
Yeah, exactly. For although by this time you ought to be teachers, you need someone to teach you the very first principles of God's word all over again. You need milk, not solid food. Anyone who has to drink milk is still a baby without experience in applying the word about righteousness. But solid food is for the mature, for those whose faculties have been trained by continuous exercise to distinguish good from evil.
Wow,
yeah,
kind of savage there.
Yeah, it's for sure, but it makes sense. I mean, you can really want to be doing the right thing. Like your heart can be like, on God's path, and you truly desire righteousness, but sometimes it's just hard to recognize, especially to someone who's like fresh on the path, I guess is the point Paul's making.
Yeah, no doubt. no doubt.
And you have to take it easy at first, basically.
Yeah,
In
yeah,
a way.
yeah. I mean, in a way, it's kind of like some of the stuff that we kind of did, which may not have been all bad, but I mean, we were kind of, and we weren't all bad. I mean, we were definitely putting in time studying the word too.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like myself at a certain point, it was kind of like, okay, I need to just like, because I'm trying to like dive into the deep end of the pool when I should be kind of like,
Yeah.
stepping
Yeah,
down.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been true as well. It's probably still true. Just still trying to as he says, exercise the faculties by continuous righteousness.